All right, guys, quick break. If you're serious about building real muscle and getting your training dialed in, this is for you. Shawn Ray, one of the most respected legends in bodybuilding, has put together a complete program called Built with Pros. It's packed with everything you need to train like a champion: goal setting, nutrition, mindset, muscle programming, recovery, breaking through plateaus. No fluff, just the real stuff that actually works. And here's the crazy part. It's a one-time payment of just $49.95. That's what most people drop on a tub of pre-workout that fades in a few hours. It'll level up your training for life. And because you're part of the Muscle Talks crew, you get 20% off with code MTP20 at checkout. Go to builtwithpros.com, use code MTP20 at checkout, and start training smarter with Shawn Ray and Built with Pros. Hey guys, Steve here. Muscle Talks podcast with the man himself, Sugar, and I haven't used this word, Sugar Shawn Ray. Yes, sir. Episode 6, Recover to Grow. Why rest is the most the most overlooked key in muscle building. In this episode, Shawn Ray lays out one of the most overlooked truths in muscle building. Real growth happens during recovery. Listeners will gain insight into the mental and physical strategies for proper rest, how to prevent burnout, the power of sleep, and recovery techniques used by pros to stay strong, mobile, and motivated over the long haul. That's right, the long haul. This episode is about optimizing the off days to win more on the on days. So let's get started. How are you, mate?
I'm good, man. It's just the whole headline about rest. It's kind of an oxymoron. Because when you're a bodybuilder, you're busy. This is what we do. We wreck shit. Like, we're going into the gym to tear our bodies down, much like a boxer or a UFC fighter. And that repetition leads to the main event. The main event, the cream rises to the top. Careers are created, and livelihoods are forged. We don't get there by resting. It's an oxymoron. Like, you want me to rest? I'm hungry. I'm ready to go. I'm that horse in the corral, ready to go and run the race. And so bodybuilders have to reel themselves in at times, because if you just keep going, everything you do is burning calories. It takes energy, and you got to replace those calories to get back to where you once were. The idea is, if you can take in more calories than you burn, then you're going to grow. That's the simple math. But we know that inactivity feels mentally like other people are getting an advantage on us, because our mind will take us over to Germany and Italy and Iran and Ireland, and we know that they're ahead of us, down to Australia, right? Japan, they're ahead of us time-wise. And I'm laying here in my bed. I need to get up and get active. And then once you rev that engine up, for a lot of guys, it's hard to slow it down and then just rest the machine and put the deposits in the bank, and then sleep and shut the mind off and get up and repetitionally do it again for the second workout. I learned very early on, through my introduction to bodybuilding, by a professional bodybuilder who was eat, sleeping, and training. I wasn't curious about what he did with his days, because most of the time in the afternoon, he was sleeping or waking up to eat. And I had the question, like, how do you pay your bills? You have this nice little apartment townhouse, you're driving a Mercedes Benz, you're traveling all over the world, and what, are people just giving you money because you're big? And I learned early on, and my introduction was learning the business of bodybuilding, that, athletes eat, sleep, and train. They have a very distinct advantage over someone pushing a 9 to 5, or someone that's raising children, or someone that has to go away to gather the revenue to come home to continue to feed the machine. When you get to a point in a professional bodybuilding career where your job is training and exhibition, because that's what we are. It's changed a little bit, because I know when I came up, every weekend I was on a stage somewhere and I got paid to perform. That doesn't happen so much today in bodybuilding, but we can really schedule our appearance almost like a rock band on tour. You make the album, put it in the the record store and you hope people come in and buy it and you get some percentages. But if you want to make real money, you got to take that act out on the road and go from one city to the next city to the next city on tour. Then when you're on tour, they're buying your music, they're buying your hats, they're buying your shirts, your merchandise. Well, as a bodybuilder, you know, when you spend everything you got in the gym, like a baby, you put the calories in, you lay down, slow down the brain, slow down the body, let all that damage repair itself, hydrate, put the supplements into the system, and you get up and you do it again. And it's like Groundhog Day because you do the same thing the next day and the next day. And if you're smart and you're savvy, you're able to book your appearances to the point where your appearances, along with your sponsorships and the prize money, could facilitate your rent, your mortgage, your car payment, your food, or your bills. And suddenly the monies that you've been foraging for out there in the world by marketing yourself as a product is now able for you to put food on the table. That food on the table is the investment in the body, and the body has to rest in order to grow. Because I said the other day on Build with Pros, we are in the gym to tear our body down. We're wrecking shit. We're beating ourselves down. The recovery and the growth takes place when you're resting. And for that bodybuilder that's eager, that's anxious, that's got anxiety, that's in perpetual motion, the metabolism's working overtime, the calories are being spent and burnt. It's going to be hard to put back on the extra mass and muscle. And it's going to also be hard to rival that guy that's actually able to get to rest and take the hour and a half, 2 hour nap, sleep through the night, get his 6 meals in a day, and he's fresh. He's getting his massages. He's doing his whirlpools. He's sitting in the hot tub. He's doing whatever he can do to get back in the gym to wreck shit up. The rest and recovery is the only way you're going to be able to continue doing that over and over again to make progress.
Yeah, I love that, but it's true. It's a lot of performers have said that the real money comes from the tour, and
yes, it may have changed. It may have changed today in the terms of a bodybuilder, because most of these guys, they'll do 1 or 2 shows, and if you're at the top of the food chain, the top 3 placings play pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make, you know, you win 1 Arnold-Plastic, you're set for the year at least, maybe even a couple of years.
Yeah.
You win 1 Olympia title, the prize money's gotten to a point where it's pretty good for you and your family for only 1 show. I personally was notorious for doing 1 show a year, but I was also notoriously on the road selling my wares and promoting myself in order to market myself as a product. But I was very aware that I would not be able to keep that pace if I didn't shut down the machine, put the mind to rest, put the body to rest, get the calories in order to keep on doing it at that pace.
I think that's the key aspect of it, is not to have the burnout that we speak about here. So the growth happens when you stop moving. People obsess over sets, reps, and macros. But you say the real growth happens when you're not in the gym. Why is recovery so essential to real progress?
Well, again, you're tearing it down. When you're working, you're tearing it down. When I'm in the gym doing my low pulley rows, my shoulder presses, my bicep curls, my tricep push downs, my abs, my cardio, my body's at work. Everything, all the cylinders are working. It requires a lot of energy, that stored energy that I have from the calories that I've been eating. And when I'm in there and I'm training with someone, they're pushing me. I'm pushing them. We're moving at a pretty quick pace. We're getting very little rest. If you picture what a heavyweight championship fight looks like, it's 12 rounds, 3-minute rounds, 1 minute rest. And you have 3 minutes and you go all out. You're trying to win the fight. You're trying not to get knocked out. You're playing chess. You're trying to make your opponent weaker, trying to get him in his blind spots. And then you got to strike when it gets good. That could happen in round 1 or in round 12. So you have to be able to pace yourself. And in these workouts in the gym, when I go in there, I don't always know what's waiting for me. If I'm training with an older guy, a younger guy, a professional, whatever is on the other side of the gym door when I go in and I'm going to train with them, I don't know if they're training the same level as I am. I'm training for the Olympia. So they got to come correct. And if they're not going to come correct, they're going to drop off. By the time I am done, when I say I feel exhausted, when I say I can't do another set, I can't do another rep, that means I left it all in the gym. So I'm okay with not necessarily winning on the stage. I'm winning in the gym. I'm doing everything it takes to win. And I'm trying to leave every workout in the gym, because if there's extra in the tank, I got to make it up on the next workout, or I'm going to beat myself up for not going extra. One of the greatest quotes I've heard from a professional Hall of Fame bodybuilder, Ronnie Coleman, one of his biggest regrets in all of bodybuilding, the illustrious career that he had. He won almost every show after he floundered for about 7 or 8 years before he found his stride. But once he found it, he never took the foot off the gas. And he said one of his biggest regrets was he was training in the gym and he was squatting, I think, some 800 pounds or something like that. And he knocked out 2 reps that were relatively looked pretty easy for him. He probably could have done more. He said his regret was that he didn't go for 5. And it's a very small nugget in the landscape of such a great, colorful career that includes hundreds of thousands of dollars in prize money, thousands, maybe millions worth of photographs and autographs, traveling the entire globe. The one thing that he regretted was that in the gym, he shortchanged himself by about 3 repetitions because he knew here when he racked that weight that he probably could have got it and he probably should have done it, but he never did have that mindset, that energy to do the exact same weight and replicate that scenario. Those scenarios create themselves once in a lifetime sometimes. And you can never get back there mentally or physically. He never did get back to that opportunity. It's not like you just go back on your next workout and pick up where you left off. It's always a work in progress, but to not have any regrets is to leave it all in the gym when you're there because you don't know if you're going to get back there again. So that was my mentality because I was a smaller guy. I saw the behemoths. I knew the magnitude of what I was trying to accomplish. Every workout had to count. But I knew that if the next one's going to be better than my last, then my rest and recovery has got to be a priority.
Very much so. You say rest isn't just sitting on the couch. Basically, you're saying rest isn't laziness. Rest isn't just sitting on the couch. What are some powerful ways athletes can truly recover physically and mentally? How did you structure rest into your routine without feeling guilty or like you were slacking?
You know, some of the world's best musicians and artists like Michael Jackson, Prince, very cerebral guys, very cerebral, very quiet, almost unassuming. Their personal, private life is not a reflection of what they do on the stage when we see them with their instruments and with their music. Totally different personalities. I mean, Michael Jackson looks like he barely speaks English. I mean, you have to pull the words from him and get the emotion. In bodybuilding, we have to find that quiet space in our mind to turn it off. Because again, this is a 24/7 thing. You can obsess about your competition. You can become obsessed about the competitors you're up against. You can psych yourself out looking at who you know you got to compete against. The difference in amateurs and pros, in the amateurs, you sometimes have no idea what the lineup's going to look like because these are people coming from different places. In the pros, not only do they sign up for the shows, but they advertise the athletes that are competing in the show. So you are looking at your competition for weeks and sometimes months before you actually get there. And you can look and psych yourself out. Some of the most beautiful models in the world were anorexic. Some of the most beautiful models in the world had body dysmorphia. They had very low confidence and self-esteem because they didn't see in the mirror what the magazines portrayed to the world. I would say there's a good 80% of bodybuilders, including myself, that are dysfunctional. And that dysfunction manifests itself in different ways. The majority of the dysfunction comes in the form of lack of self-belief. We almost have to be reassured by other people how good we are because we're in the body. We don't know. It's all comparative. How do I look? Do I look okay? Do I look okay? Am I cut enough? How's my posing? Am I stacking up to my competition? We're always comparing ourselves to someone other than ourselves. And so everyone that we're up against, there's this thing in the back of our mind, it's are we good enough? Because we're so overwhelmed at how good they are. I was in my first Olympia in 88. I was 13th place, right in the middle of 24 athletes. In 1989, I didn't compete in the Mr. Olympia. I sat in the front row in Rimini, Italy. And I was looking at the guys that I competed against the previous year. Some of the guys I beat. And I thought, there's no way I can make it back to that stage.
Wow.
In my mind, psychologically, in my mind, in that audience, on my birthday, September 9th, 1989, I psyched myself to believe that I'm not as good as those guys are. It took me time to go back into the gym after watching that and reinvigorating myself and reprogramming myself that I got to get back to that stage. I had to claw my way back to that stage. And when I did in 1990, I went from 13th place to third. And that tells me I'm not a unicorn, because I saw Ronnie Coleman get dead last in 1992 and first place in 1998. And everything in between was a blur, but none of it was really stellar. It was a slow climb for Ronnie. But once he arrived in 98, he stayed there for 8 consecutive years. I say all that to say this. We gain confidence as we achieve. And as other people reiterate to us how good we are, how good we're looking. They're watching our progress. Can you imagine? You're in the magazines like I was all the way throughout the decade of the 90s. And every time somebody picked up a magazine, I was in there. So I'd be constantly stopped here, there, grocery stores, airports, DMV. Didn't matter where I was at. Are you the guy? Oh, I read your article. And I could hear the inspiration I was giving to these people. And these were just photographs being taken of me in the gym. Because it's not like I pump up for the photograph. They catch me in midstream when I'm training, right? And those photos aren't doctored. There's no Photoshop. That's me. So when they're inspired by my look or what I said, and I hear the feedback, then it reiterates to me that I'm on the right path. It builds up my confidence. But the majority of us, we don't really know what we're capable of until we actually accomplish it. And the more we accomplish, the more we can then have this self-belief and the confidence. But confidence for a bodybuilder, especially a bikini girl, it's a very slow burn. But through repetition, through that positive reinforcement of our progress from other people noticing what we're doing, by comparing ourselves to the best in the world, not just the guy next door, the very best in the world, it builds up our belief that what we're doing is not only is it working, but it's bearing fruit because other people are paying attention and they're getting inspired and they're paying it back to us. So this entire industry, I don't think I can say I speak for the majority of the industry, that what you see in confidence from the bodybuilder on the stage is not always who they actually are. Sometimes it is part of the persona. And like Michael Jackson, shy and quiet off camera, comes alive on the stage. We take months, weeks, and sometimes years to get to that stage. And when we get on that stage, the way we portray ourselves is not always the way that we believe you see us. So you have to be able to turn the mind off sometimes, put the music on without the lyrics, slow the heart rate down, and get in tune with what it is you're trying to do and who you are and how good you think you can do. Because this is a sport where we always say believe and achieve. We try to manifest where our positive thoughts take us. And if you don't think you're good enough, and if you think the competition is too big, and if you think the stage is too big and you're just not ready, you wind up in the kitchen eating the donuts late night. You wind up eating the ice cream. You wind up falling off your diet. You wind up believing that you can't perform in the gym or do your routine. And then it shows when you step on the stage because you're self-defeated because you didn't buy into the dream. You didn't believe the process. And all these other things, they start to fall and fail. And then you let all the noise comes in. So you can't rest. You can't rest because you're talking to your girlfriend or you're talking to your training partner and you're telling them that you're setting yourself up for failure. You think I look that good? I don't think I look that good. I'm holding a lot of water. No, my arms are too small. No, I got to bench more. And you just put up all these roadblocks, and then you go to lay down, and you can't get those negative thoughts out of your head. And you wake up the next day, and they're still there, and the mind takes the body where it wants to go. So you have to be able to find that peace, the moments where you can detox and separate from the sport, because it's always on your mind. So that's why I used to listen to non-lyrical music when I came home from the gym. It's the elevator music. It's, it's Beethoven. It's classical because it doesn't wind me up. It's not AC/DC. It's not Tupac. When I come in my house, you would hear the elevator music, the piano, the violin. And for me, that was very soothing. And I could take my mind off the bodybuilding and the energy that I have It's different for different people. Massages help, walks outside instead of on the treadmill in the gym will help calm everything down. And then you can get that REM sleep and start over. But you have to be able to rest the mind as well as the body. You never know what's in a book until you pick it up and you read it one page at a time. So Build with Pros is a book that doesn't really exist anymore because we're not reading the bodybuilding books. They don't make them anymore. So here we are in the digital age where you can actually fast track your progress listening from someone that's in the Bodybuilding Hall of Fame, Lifetime Achievement Award winner, a professional at the highest degree for 13 consecutive years. How I did it. It's not impossible. It's not rocket science. But having Build with Pros in your pocket at your disposal will be the moral compass to your fitness journey in terms of what you should do, what you think you can do, and what's possible to do. For 50 bucks, you can get a wealth of knowledge here at Build with Pros. You're going to spend $50 just on a couple of workouts at the gym. You might spend $50 on some energy drinks or some supplements that you think are going to be real great for you for that moment. This is something for 50 bucks. It's going to last for a lifetime. And don't forget, get your 20% off by entering your discount code at MTP20.
I think sometimes, as you mentioned, trying to get reassurance from others, and I guess with Built with Pros, when you are alone or feeling like you're not certain or not sure, you need some sort of mentoring. I guess Built with Pros gives you a bit of mentoring, a bit of peace of mind to know who's done it, how they did it, how they got through it. So again, this is exactly why we've got these episodes happening now for people to be better and to reach those goals they want to reach and build like a pro. The mental burnout trap. You mentioned how stress, countdowns, and hyperfocus can actually sabotage performance. What's the mental cost of overtraining? What are your personal signs that it's time to step back and recharge?
Yeah, like anything else. I mean, you're not feeling the pump. You're not feeling the exercise. You're not able to move the kind of weight that you normally do. It's like the rainy Monday. You know, it seems like the longest day of the year when you wake up and it's pissing down rain and the traffic is out there and it just keeps going forever and you just can't get through this day. It's like a hangover, I imagine, for some people. And if anybody's ever had a hangover, they know what that's like. Or it's like being exhausted, like coming off of a cold, where your whole body aches. Nothing's happening right for you. It's okay to take a break. Most bodybuilders don't, and that's the problem because bodybuilders don't feel that a break is making progress. You know, we make progress in the gym. We can't skip a workout any more than we want to skip a meal. We're programmed to think that we can push through this. And we don't think that we have enough time on the clock, that if we take time off, how do I make up that last 2 days that I missed out of the gym? It's very manic. It's a manic behavior that some of us have to think that we can't take 2 days out of 7 days to do nothing, to get away from the gym. And that's because we are so programmed to think that if I take time off, someone's going to get ahead of me. If I take time off, I'm going to fall behind. I'm going to lose all of my gains. I'm going to lose all my definition. I'm going to gain weight. So you get in your head. And so many bodybuilders, I can tell you that I've known throughout the years, have gotten to a point where they wind up not getting on the stage. A year ago, Nick Walker mentioned that he had some mental things that he needed to address. No physical, mental. 2 or 3 weeks out from the Mr. Olympia. It's a real thing. So what do you lose? He lost a paycheck. He's a perennial top 5 guy. I would have had him in the top 5 of the Olympia if he had showed up last year. That's thousands of dollars. That's his job. He had already trained probably from the month of May, June, July, August into September, maybe 4 or 5 months of his life. He's been training for that moment to go to the Mr. Olympia in October. And weeks before the show, he pulled the plug. Not because he had a bad injury, but because his mind wasn't right. Keon Pearson, he's won 2 212 Olympia championships. I believe he's a top 3 Olympian right now if he's in the open division. A couple of short years ago, he qualified for the Olympia, and he said he couldn't go. He had to get his mind right. Whatever that means, it means that, you know what? If your head's not in the game, the body is not going to follow. Simone Biles, the most decorated gymnast in history, forget American, in Olympic history, Simone Biles. She pulled out of the Olympics because she said she had some mental issues that she had to deal with. When she was performing her practices, her twists and her spins, she became afraid of the altitude that she was getting, the degree of difficulty, and an accident was waiting to happen. I watched Sugar Ray Leonard in the ring with Roberto Duran, hands of stone. Roberto had already beaten Sugar Ray Leonard before, and here they were in a fight in Jamaica, sixth, seventh, or eighth round, and Sugar Ray Leonard is peppering him, embarrassing him, tattooing him, and Roberto Duran hands of steel. He quit. No mas, no mas. I quit. He's one of the world's best boxers. He was the champion before, and he'd beaten this man in the ring before. But something got in his head, and he said, "No mas. If you don't have control of your mind, your body's not going to follow. And if you go in that gym to squat 2, 3, 4, 500 pounds, to bench 2, 3, 4, 500 pounds, it's dangerous in the gym. And when you get hurt, it can be career altering and life changing. So the smart bodybuilder, they pull a no mas. They do what Nick Walker did, sit on the sidelines. They do what Keon Pearson did, because you got to get your mind right. This is a professional sport, and it's dangerous in the gym. And when you get ready for a show, it could be even more dangerous when you're dehydrating, when you're on that stage with the bright lights and you cut rivals and you embarrass yourself. And then there's some unforgivable things that you just won't be able to get across because the body isn't where the mind is. And that's why I say you have to be mentally prepared just as you are physically. It's not just sets and reps and calories. This is the game of chess. And the one that plays it right comes in with the most confidence, comes out with the best experience, is able to monetize it. But when your mind's not right, it can cost you thousands of dollars. These are professional athletes. It costs you ranking in the grand scheme of the Olympia, where the world views you as a top athlete. And then there's that self defeat when it's over, and you didn't do the show. You gotta come back somehow or another. You got to get back to where you were. And there's nothing sweeter than when you're knocked down mentally and you come back. That happened to me in 1989, and I was sitting there watching. Happened to me when I came back and won the Arnold Classic and failed the drug test and did get the prize money, didn't keep the trophy, a whole year of training gone. I got to reboot, and I got to come back. Had to reboot, and I had to come back, and I did. I was able to do it. I'm not alone. There's some people that love those challenges. Dorian Yates tore his bicep weeks before the biggest show of his life. He stayed on track and he won the actual contest, beat 16 or 17 of us with one arm. So if you're feeling sorry for yourself or you're weak-minded, Dorian doesn't win that Mr. Olympia. Why? Because he wouldn't have shown up. So we struggle sometimes with the mind and the body, but we have to find a way to make them in sync.
Sleep like a champion. You can sleep. You call sleep the most underrated growth tool
Yes.
in the game. What changed when you started treating sleep like training? What's your sleep environment playbook, and why do people invest in why should people invest in it like they have invested in
Let me tell you
food?
how serious I was about my sleep. I'm a teenager living at home with both my parents. I'm 17 years old.
Yeah.
It's where I started. When I decided to be a bodybuilder, John Brown told me he took naps in the afternoon before he went back to the gym. I went to school, and actually I went to the gym in the morning, went to school, had football practice in the early evening, 3 o'clock. But I have this little 2-hour window where I get out at 12, and I got 2 hours to do whatever. Instead of running around during those 2 hours, I came home, I put aluminum foil on my windows. The aluminum foil blocks out any light. So when I come in my room is pitch black. And I had a small portable fan that I set on the floor, so it was an oscillating fan going back and forth to cool me off. And I walk in my room. I had purple black lights from back in the day with the 1970s type posters.
Right.
Had the aluminum foil on my room. My room was cool. It was black and it was nighttime. And I could go in my room, I can lay down, and I can actually turn off the world. Why? Because I knew I had to go to the gym, and I knew there was going to be a fight. I knew it was going to be work. So I needed to be re-energized. I've been running around. I went to the gym in the morning, I went to school all day, and I had football practice. So either I would go to the gym before football practice, I'd come home and go to the gym after football practice. But I needed to re-energize, and I had a 1-2 hour window to do that. Couldn't do it in the broad daylight, so I blacked out my room. That's somebody. When I look back, that 17-year-old kid is serious. Because who is going to go to those lengths to think that that sleep is that important, that they have to have the room black? And without that aluminum foil, my room's not black. I had clear see-through curtains. And my family knew when I went up the stairs to sleep that I wasn't to be bothered. And so I look back and I kind of think that was their investment in me. Shawn's going upstairs to sleep before football. Shawn's going upstairs to sleep before he goes to the gym. They knew that I was wired differently. Yeah. But because I was doing that, I got there so fast. I became a teenage California champion and teenage Mr. America. I think that I bought into all the mechanisms of my glimpse at pro bodybuilding from John Brown, that if it's working for him, it's got to work for me. You know, he's sleeping at 12 noon. So I'm going to copy him. I'm going to try to get some sleep in the afternoon. Those naps multiply and they add up over the course of a year. And it was my junior and my senior year that I grew the most, because I was so committed to trying to become something that I thought would be impossible. And rest and recovery is one of the components with the calories and the training that meant everything for success for me. And I took it just as serious as I did competition preparation, which meant I wasn't watching television. Like you said, sitting down, laying down, that's not rest. That's not sleep. You got to turn the mind off. I laid down and I'm out. The only thing that got me up was that alarm clock. And when you're training hard like that, getting in a bed and falling asleep actually becomes easier because you're fatigued and you're burnt out.
I think as well, just making sure you switch off from distractions and thinking you're missing out on things at such a young age that you were. Recovery for the real world. You say recovery looks different for everyone, especially non-athletes. What advice do you have for someone with a job, kids, and only 30 minutes to recharge? What are some small recovery tactics people can sneak into their day, even if they're not full-time athletes?
It's so interesting because people love hypotheticals. People love someone else to problem solve for them. What I take could kill you. What you take could kill me. I like steak and beef. You might like chicken and fish. And the foods don't even work the same on us. Trying to give someone advice on something that I think is so elementary to me is hard to do. Ronnie Coleman held down a full-time job for I think the first 3 or 4 years that he was Mr. Olympia. He was a police officer. Yeah. The majority of our bodybuilders back prior to me had jobs because there was no money. The money didn't come until the 80s, late 80s, I might add. So those 70 bodybuilders, the 70s and the early 80s bodybuilders, most of them worked. And even today, a lot of bodybuilders are actually having to work. So I don't hypothetically put myself out there and go, well, you know, if you have a job, here's what you need to do. My job was bodybuilding, and I didn't have a plan B. So I was always working because there was nobody throwing money in my mailbox because I was a bodybuilder. So I had to use my mind to mark myself as a product. I had to use my ingenuity to figure out what my value is, to find a way to stay busy creating tours. Person that works a job, yeah, they may be at a disadvantage, but guess what? A lot of people that missed the teenage years are at a disadvantage too. I started at 17, Lee Priest 13. Bob Chick at 13. We got a running start into the bodybuilding with 3-4 years under our belt before we got into serious. Some of these guys are starting to bodybuild when they're in their late 20s. You know, you're starting late. Some of these guys are starting off with a ready-made family. So now you have a family and you have a job. And we expect you to eat 6 times a day and train twice a day and take a nap too. It doesn't even sound like it's real. But guess what? I'd love to play basketball. I'm too short. I'd love to go out there and try to become a professional. Why does anybody want to compare themselves to a professional? We have divisions for everyone: master's divisions, teenage divisions, novice, beginner divisions. You can compete in any of those divisions, and you'll be competing against people with like-minded um, interests. They're trying to individually improve. But as a grown man, you think you're going to be able to become or compete in the Mr. Olympia against guys that are just eat, sleeping, and training, young guys in their 20s? Remember, when I came up in the 90s, these guys were all in their 20s. Lee Haney retired at 31, 32 years old. I retired at 35 years old. They're competing much longer. They're getting a later start. The money is better for a few. But to the guy that works a job, be realistic about your goals. That's what I tell him. Say, be realistic. Do not sacrifice everything to try to become Mr. Olympia. You have a family at home and you have a real job that you have to attend to. Your odds of becoming Mr. Olympia are going to be sadly against you. You know why? Let's look at our Mr. Olympias. Samson Dowda, he just won $600,000 last year. Do you think he has to work? Or is that 600,000 financing his career? I think so. Then he goes to the Arnold Classic, and he winds up getting second at the Arnold Classic. I don't know. I think that was another 200,000. So there's 800,000. It's not even been a year yet. He hasn't signed one photograph. He hasn't monetized anything on his social media. He hasn't the clothing deals that he has, the gym deals. That these athletes are well financed to the degree that you can't really compete against these guys if you're not able to commit 24/7 to the job. So you got to lower your expectations and compete within your means. And don't think you're going to become Mr. Olympia because you're doing what Mr. Olympia does. You know, win a city show, win a local show, win a state show, win a national show, and then see where that takes you. Maybe you get a sponsor and that helps you out. But I didn't get into bodybuilding to make money. And I also didn't come into bodybuilding with people just giving me opportunities. The opportunities I created, they were created from the success I was having on the stage. And I don't know that I could do that if I was 35 years old wanting to become a bodybuilder, let alone 35 years old looking at Mr. Olympia saying, I want to be him. I'd be 20 years too late starting. You got guys that have been doing it since they're teenagers.
Soreness, injury, and knowing the line. How do you personally tell the difference between good sore and a real injury? What should people do when something hurts? Keep pushing or pause or reassess?
Yeah, I think we covered this on an earlier episode of with Bill and Pros, but there's a difference in injury and soreness. We know the difference in the pain levels. You know, if you do something and it's painful and it's throbbing and it's warm to the touch, that's an injury. And injuries only get exacerbated if you keep on agitating it. So you got to stop, take your foot off the gas, put some ice on it, put some heat on it, let it rest, recover, come back after it starts to heal. Soreness is part of the job. I'm sore all the time. I mean, that's the feedback that comes with it. You know, when I imagine when track runners run long distance, their feet hurt. You know, it's a lot of running, a lot of pounding. But, you know, for them to get better with their times, they got to get back out there and run the next day and the next day and the next day. And they're not thinking about how sore their feet are. They're thinking about bettering their time. As a bodybuilder, I'm not thinking about how sore I am. I'm thinking about building my body. I'm supposed to be sore. This is supposed to hurt. I know that if I get injured, then it's time to pump my brakes. And I think you'll know the difference in being sore and being injured if one or both of them happen to you. But as sure as the day is, it will probably happen. You'll both get injured and you'll probably get sore. And until you experience one or both of them, you won't know how to deal with it until it happens. Whether, you know, I don't wish somebody getting hurt at all, but in bodybuilding, the way we train, chances of getting hurt the odds are astronomical of getting hurt. I think everybody that's bodybuilding has been hurt to some degree, but no question, 100% of us have been sore. And we're able to live to fight another day. So I take the sympathy out of it. Soreness doesn't count. Soreness is a byproduct of doing what you're supposed to do. How to mitigate that is through massages, through icy hot baths, and therapy, stretching, and you can overcome that soreness. Injuries, that's where you bring in the third party doctor to take a look at you so you don't make it worse. Common sense.
Common sense. Well, you've segued into the next question, which is massage, stretching, and active recovery. You used massage, jacuzzi, foam rolling, and stretching to stay mobile. Which of these had the biggest impact for you? For people who can't get a massage every week, what are one or two self recovery routines you recommend?
Stretching is number
Yeah,
one.
I think stretching is
Like
number
when I'm sore,
one.
just stretching out
Stretch.
is therapy alone. And I'm talking good deep stretching, and you could do that on your own. I'm my go-to is a massage. I've never been anywhere in the world where I couldn't find a massage. So now it comes down to how serious are you about your recovery? Because if you're serious about your recovery, those massages are going to help you get to the next level. You're going to eat, right? So sometimes I can't eat, but you know that you're not going to grow unless you eat. So you're going to do whatever it takes to get those calories in. As a professional, I made sure that I found a massage. Someone's going to give me a massage today. That's part of me eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's part of me finding water to drink throughout the day.
Yeah.
Someone's going to give me a massage because I took my job that serious. It's part of the recovery process. It's not fun. I'm not looking for pleasure. I'm looking for therapy. So what are you willing to do if you're trying to be the best in the world? You can't think like an amateur and think that you're going to wake up one day a professional. I started out as an amateur thinking like a pro, feeling like I'm supposed to be there and doing what they were doing and not cutting corners. And I think that you got to treat your body like that. Your recovery should be as important to you as the workout itself. Because again, anybody can lift weights, but to get results, you got to treat your body like it's something special.
Very good. Post workout nutrition equals post battle fuel. You say the meal after training is where the real growth begins. What's your simple formula for a great post workout meal? How did you make eating after intense sessions something to look forward to, not just another to do?
Well, because I train on an empty stomach, first of all. So when I go to bed at night, I'm eating. There's several hours that go by, and I'm not eating. And when I wake up and I put my body through it, I'm burning off all that stored food that I put in my system. I'm running my body down to empty. Yeah, I'm fatigued. Yeah, I'm exhausted, but there's always room for those calories because that's when my body will receive them the most, when they need them the most. And after you've gone through a workout in a fasting period, because from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., there's a fasting period that happens, right? So nothing's coming in. Um, and when I work out on an empty stomach, I know in my head, I don't need anything in my stomach because if it was there, it's going to come up. If you're training with me and you're training hard enough, if you ate breakfast, I'm going to find out what that is. By the time we get to bent over rows, if bent over rows doesn't bring it out, we're going to do one arm rows. If that doesn't work, we're going to go do the long cable rows. If that's not working, we're going to do deadlifts. Then we're going to go to the pull-ups. I'm going to find out what you had for breakfast. And there's nothing you can do about it because the pace, the style of exercises, it was commonplace to feel rewarded to try to make someone throw up back in the day, make them quit or make them throw up. And you could do that through the type of exercises, the rep set, the resting period. And that was kind of, sadistic, but it was for us satisfying to find out what someone ate. So you get to a point where you just don't need the food in the morning. Immediately after I trained, my body was receptive to anything that I ate. And I ate like a champion. I ate like, you see the gladiators coming back from the war. That was me. The conquered people, we go in and take all the plundering and all the food and eat all this. I mean, we ate like kings back in the day after we trained. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Balance, joy, and staying in the game. You talk about burnout being the end of fun. How do you bring joy and novelty back in the game, even when training got repetitive? What's your take on longevity in bodybuilding, not just in physical, but in mindset and lifestyle?
Yeah. I think I have the advantage of meeting a lot of the guys that I aspired to be. And when you meet those guys, it becomes very nostalgic because I wasn't shy to ask them to go to lunch, have dinner, have a workout, and hear the stories and remind them of who they were because I read all the magazines, I watched all the videos.
They like that.
So a lot of guys are very reflective. When you open that door, they're more than willing to go down memory lane. It's their way of paying it forward. So I heard all the war stories from the very best, from Chris Dickerson to Samir Banu, Larry Scott, Lee Haney, Dorian Yates, all the guys I came up with back in the day, Vince Taylor, and those war stories that they would share of things that I would read about or things that I visually witnessed, it was food for me to continue my journey because I had a story to tell as well. But I surrounded myself with like-minded individuals. I never lost sight of the prize, which I think is why I was always in the fight. I was always in the finals. But surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, I think, is paramount to keeping your interest and also learning. This is a sport where you never have everything. You never learn enough. But what it did give me is camaraderie, friendships that I know that I would never have been able to forge. Not only that, but have lasted the test of time. And when I tell you I was a teenager standing on the stage in 1985 with Bob Ciccarello in Atlanta, Georgia at the Teenage National Championships, where he won the heavyweight, I won the light heavyweight. And then we had a pose down and I beat him for the overall. The guy that was the lightweight, his name is Chris Faldo. That was 1984, was 41 years ago. 41 years ago. I talk to Bob on a regular basis today. I work with Bob on the Olympia, and I travel with Bob. I have my show in Hawaii for the past 8 years. The lightweight guy, I'm the reason why he was able to open up his new gym because I helped him get all of his gym equipment. He's a sponsor of my show every single year that I have my show in Hawaii. And we have 40 years of friendship out of competition. This industry, some of the people have gotten married to people that they've met in this industry, in the gyms, on stage. I believe Jim Mannion met his wife at a bodybuilding show. I know that, for example, there are a lot of people that have children and they follow in their footsteps. Lee Labrada, his son Hunter Labrada, followed on to the Mr. Olympia. Sergio Oliva Jr. followed his dad, three-time Mr. Olympia, into bodybuilding. So for me, I stay connected to bodybuilding through relationships that I've been able to forge by visiting the different gyms and running into my different people that have the same kind of energy I have.
Yeah, I think it's very important. That also keeps you staying in the game. Is just sharing and experiencing, and also listening. A form of just communicating with everyone, every form of communication. The last question here, obviously, the final words, the missing piece for the people listening who's stuck in go 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 mode. What's one truth about rest and recovery you wish they fully understood?
Well, there's a reason why I competed once a year. Progress for some people thinks that being in the fight, being on the stage, that they're heading in the right direction. They need that moral compass of always having a contest to get ready for because it keeps them from going off the beaten path. The structure: eat, sleep, train, compete, eat, sleep, train, compete. Milo Sarchev is famous for saying he did 71 shows or something like that. But I think he won one. So it's not the contest that kept my moral compass focused. Progress for me. And the only way I could make that progress was by going slow. I knew that it was a marathon. There's a reason I did 13 Olympias by comparison to most guys that are maybe here today and gone tomorrow, 2 or 3 shows. In order to have longevity in this sport, you have to pace yourself. You can burn out chasing trophies. You can burn out chasing victories. And more is not always better. I mean, if you can string along 2 or 3 shows in a couple of weeks, hey, good for you, more power to you. But when you try to compete every other month, burnout is going to be waiting for you because the level of competition is steep the expectation is high, the burnout, the progress. It's very hard to continue putting the body up and down, up and down. It is painfully reminding me of Mohammed Benaziza, who in 1992 stood next to me in Helsinki, Finland. I was fourth place, and Mohammed Benaziza was fifth place. I came home from Helsinki. He went on 2 weeks later to compete in Amsterdam, Holland. And they told him in Helsinki he was holding too much water. But remember, Dorian Yates, Kevin Levrone, Lee Labrada, and myself. He was fifth. None of those guys were in Amsterdam. None of them went to Helsinki. Mohammed Benaziza went. So he was the odds-on favorite because the other four guys that had beaten him were gone. He dried out so much that he expired. He had a heart attack. And that was it. After he had won the show, he did what he needed to do, but the pressure, the expectation to dry out, he dried out to the point where he expired, didn't get to enjoy the victory. And that's one of the tragedies of our sport, is that people will go to extremes. They'll try to do anything, all in the hopes of being better, all in the hopes of winning, and also at the behest of someone else telling them, you're holding too much water, you're too soft, you need to dry out, take some diuretics. And the next thing you know, you've gone too far and there's no coming back. So for me, less is more. And just because you're competing and you're active doesn't mean you're making progress.
Well, we're on, this was episode 6. I think if anyone hasn't yet downloaded, invested into Built with Pros, you're 6 episodes behind and the competition is getting ahead of you. So I think many should by now have invested into it, and there's so much more than just these episodes. Shawn, thank you again for your precious time, this amazing library of information. We've got another episode to go, so I'm looking forward to finding out more then. Thanks, Shawn.
All right. Cheers, mate.